Polls have not closed. Ibrahim Raisi is the next president of Iran. Ibrahim Raisi, next president of Iran. How did I know that? Because the Khomeini told me that that was going to be the next president. The Khomeini said the Khomeini said, what did the Khomeini said? He said Ibrahim Raisin is going to be the next president of Iran. And if he is not the president, then I'll eat my fucking shoes. I'll eat my shoes and I'll, apologize, and I'll sit there and I'll try to win you guys back. If he is not the president, what that says is that Iran's democracy is better than Syria's democracy, and it's better than what I had presumed. And so, Ibrahim Raisi is the presumed winner. I'm calling it before the end. I could have called it 3 days ago, but I'm calling it right now. But if I'm wrong, then Iran, their democracy ain't half bad. Their democracy ain't half bad. Now, this is all about Isaac Wright Jr. Who is Isaac Wright Jr.? Well, there's a movie about his life. 50 Cent helped produce this movie called For Life. Isaac Wright Jr. is going to go to jail for life. He was arrested July 25th, 1989 in Passaic, New Jersey. Isaac Wright is running for mayor of New York City. So this is his claim to fame. He's been a lawyer for the last, 25 years or so. But in 1989, July 25th, he's going to get arrested for buying 2 pounds of cocaine from a co-defendant. So somebody else that gets fucked over. He bought 2 pounds of cocaine from them. So everybody got fucked over, right? The buyer, the supplier. And then April 1991, he's going to get convicted of that, crime. And there was various drug charges, lots of drug charges. 1991, what was that? That was still Papa Bush. And then he's going to get convicted. This is Isaac Wright Jr., okay? He's a lawyer for 25 years. He's going to get convicted by a 12-person jury in Somerset, New Jersey, after a 5-week trial on 10 drug charges, all involving the sale of cocaine. And in 1991, he was sentenced to mandatory life in prison under New Jersey's drug kingpin law. So here you got Isaac Wright Jr., he's being convicted on 10 drug charges. And then they got drug kingpin laws. Automatic life in fucking jail. Isaac Wright is never going to get out. He was out. He bought 2 pounds of cocaine. Peru and Bolivia's got cocaine all over the fucking place. But in 1989, this is the height of the war on drugs. Ronald and Papa Bush and Nixon's war on drugs. And Biden's. His wife is going to serve 9 months after pleading guilty to drug charges in the case. So, Isaac Wright Jr. got fucked. His wife got fucked. But Isaac Wright Jr., he appealed his convictions and his sentence. And then in 1995, the New Jersey Appellate Division, they affirmed his convictions, except for one, based on the charge that he led a cocaine trafficking network that distributed cocaine in Franklin, New Jersey, and New Brunswick, New Jersey, holding that the instructions to the jury were not adequate on that charge. So he got 1 drug charge thrown out, still guilty of 9 drug charges. The Supreme Court of New Jersey is going to affirm the decision. Yep, fuck your life, Isaac Wright Jr. Isaac Wright Jr. broke the fucking law. The drug kingpin laws, he's going to be in prison forever. New Jersey is going to pay for his meals and his housing for the rest of his life. At least that's what it looked like it was going to be. But did Isaac Wright Jr. quit? Did he give up? No, he did not. His conviction years later is going to get overturned on the basis that the police had concealed evidence of an illegal search and seizure of drugs presented at his trial, and that the prosecutor knew of a favorable plea agreement with one of his co-defendants who was a witness at his trial. And so somebody got a good plea agreement. How come he didn't get the plea agreement? And then the illegal search and seizure, they concealed evidence. So the police had evidence about something that they had found illegally, search and seizure, but they didn't mention it, and so a technicality, essentially. Isaac Wright Jr. was able to get his freedom because he got a lawyer that found a technicality. And then he's going to study the law, too, and then he's going to... So that's his claim to fame, what he actually believes in and who he actually... what direction he's going to send, Is he going to send New York City straight to hell, or is he going to get New York City to the top of the mountain? Not been to the mountaintop. Isaac Wright Jr. has been free for 25 years. He's been successful as an attorney in New Jersey. Isaac Wright Jr., his lawyers fought hard to get him out of prison, ultimately got one of the charges tossed out. Wright knew he wasn't supposed to be behind bars, so he started studying law through the prison's Inmate Legal Association. Well, that's interesting. Fucking prison? I thought it's not a hotel and all this other shit. The Inmate Legal Association, so there's actually, you get legal rights, you get a house, you get fucking food, and you get a lawyer when you go into prison? Jesus Christ. It's better than out, you know. I guess you don't have freedom, which that's, you know, a big thing, but focused on how prosecutors tried his case. He not only overturned his convictions in just a few years, but he also helped other inmates overturn their convictions. So Isaac Wright Jr. knew the law. He wasn't going to let anyone get crushed by the law. It's that kind of drive and perseverance that says New York City. He says that's what New York City needs right now. Of course, he's going to be for police reform and criminal justice. It'd be interesting to see exactly what he's, you know, talking about. Also, taxes, schools, desegregation. New York City schools are still segregated. 2021, you still got white schools, black schools, Hispanic schools, Chinatown schools. So he's for school desegregation. He's going to fight against homelessness. There's transit issues, taxes, police reform, criminal justice reform. The mayor will also likely have to continue to justify his support. This is Isaac Wright Jr. talking about de Blasio. He's going to have to justify his support for MTA's planned addition of 500 new MTA police officers, more cops on the subway, many of whom are meant to patrol the subways and buses in conjunction with the NYPD in a plan that currently exacerbates the issue. Citywide police retraining to focus on de-escalation, demilitarization of regularly uniformed officers, the creation. This is what Isaac Wright Jr. believes. De-escalate, demilitarized, the creation of a mental health response organization separate from the NYPD, kind of like Diane Morales' first responders department. Reduce the overwhelming police presence in our schools, a reallocation of the bloated budget to community resources, mental health services, and education, the empowering of the CCRB in an effort to hold officers who breach the public trust accountable. Police accountability is only half the equation. My own experiences with the justice system have been well documented. It's given me a deep understanding of the need for change. We must stop criminalizing poverty by ending the cash bail system, eliminating court processing fees, decriminalizing low-level nonviolent drug offenses, and developing a broad community-driven coalition of ideas, strategies, and policies to end mass incarceration. Isaac Wright's plan will provide a pathway to home ownership for all inclined NYCHA residents. Residents with moderate incomes will automatically qualify for a mortgage to buy their unit with subsidized payments to assist paying off the mortgage. Residents who would not qualify for a mortgage can enroll in a rent-to-buy process where rent payments go towards home ownership of the unit currently being occupied. So he wants restorative justice. He believes in restorative justice. So there you go. Isaac Wright Jr., everybody. He's my fourth pick in the top 5. Number 1 is Jocelyn Taylor. Number 2 is Paperboy Love Prince. Number 3, Diane Morales. Number 4, Isaac Wright Jr. And then number 5, Maya Wiley. The reason why I got him in the top 5 is because he hasn't been talked about, so he's a long shot, underdog candidate. So he's an underdog, long shot candidate, which, you know, I'm always on the side of the underdogs and the oppressed and the long shot people. Like Jesus, right? Like Jesus. Now, what was I saying? Oh, shit. Isaac Rawl, and then Maya Wiley. And then Maya Wiley, number 5. So Diane Morales, Maya Wiley, are my... Okay. I've already... Okay. All right.